Boom. I think I'm live already. Just need to check my goddamn settings because I always do this. Like, I'll always, oh, let me start my stream. And then, like, my settings are all fucked up already. Like it always is. Hey. Just gotta make sure. Yeah, let's see if this thing gonna play. My mic sounds okay, but I don't know. Do, 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 do. What's this? Team motivation activities, 9 minutes. Ah, didn't play through. Nope, didn't play through. All right, let's see. Let's see. Plus, trying to see. Hold up. Ooh, I suck. I should have had this ready to go when I first freaking did it. Ah. You sound like my settings got fucked up now. Oh, because it was coming from another mic. Hmm. Oh, yeah. So I can just do that. Boom. Properties. And then hit that. Boom. It fucked it all the way up.
Hyundai Tucson versus Honda CRV. Hyundai Tucson.
The privilege discussion, like that's a great conversation for you to have with your.
What happened to that audio? I'm just messing everything up. Okay, so that worked.
Your child. But I
But okay, so wait, what the fuck? What happened to bro, what happened to all my audio settings? What the hell is happening here? This is a bad start. This is a bad start. This is a horrible start. Okay, browser. Okay, properties. Okay. So which audio is this?
don't think that taxpayer-funded hatred
What's
should be
wrong
something
with
that we allow in our schools.
Okay, bro, real talk though, like
Got it. Hold up. There we go. I'm so stupid. Right. Um, browser. Boom. There we go. Then I should be able to hear it now.
brother to brother. Teach
Okay, I heard it on there. Let's see if I heard it. Hear it on my stream. Come on. Hey, let's see. Bro, I'm lagging. Get going.
teaching white privilege does not inherently mean black people are less. Factually incorrect. SAT.
Yeah, let's see what happens. This is the I stopped there at the wrong point, bro.
Gotta be careful.
I'm Mina Durson. I'm a correspondent here at Vice News, and we're going to talk about education.
What the heck was happening with that audio? Maybe it's just echoing because I was close as shit to my mic. I think that's good. I think that's good. All right, we're going to start it and see how it sounds. I'm about to start over and see what happens. All right, fuck it. I've been doing this for too long. I've been sitting here for too long. Nothing happening. Let's go.
Privilege
We
discussion,
started. Here
like
we
that's
go.
a great conversation for you to have with your child. But I don't think that taxpayer-funded hatred should be something that we allow in our schools.
Okay, bro, real talk though, like brother to brother. Teaching white privilege does not inherently mean
This is making fun of me. All right, we're good. We're good. Okay, I can pause my stream. I mean, pause YouTube now. All right, back at it. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So, what we're doing is looking at conservatives versus liberals on the U.S. education system. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be like some CRT mix in there, some trans rights shit that they be teaching. So, let's see what happens.
black people are less. Factually incorrect. SAT.
It's been so hard trying not to watch this during the day because I want like a actual live reaction.
Gotta be careful.
I'm Mina Durson. I'm a correspondent here at Vice News, and we're going to talk about education today. We tried to bring a very diverse mix of voices here. Obviously, we're not going to be able to represent every single opinion out there when it comes to education, but we are really thankful for your time and for your perspectives. I also have 2 kids in school, so have experienced some of this from the parent side as well. So let's just start really broadly. What's the purpose of education?
I think the purpose of education is twofold. One, to help build and support the individual, but also help build and support society as a whole. Because even though you may not have a kid in education, you pay taxes to public school because we as a society depend on and need education for society to work.
I think the purpose of education is to educate and not indoctrinate. And I think that in a lot of ways we've strayed from that. And
Isn't that all it's about is education? What's the role of education? Education. That's it. Science, math, good stuff. Reading. Fuck all the extra stuff. People complain too much about like, oh, you don't teach my kid how to do like chores or their taxes or some shit like that, bro. That's your job as a parent. teach your kids?
The original purpose of what it's supposed to be.
I think it should be intelligence and character. I think you should be able to understand the world around you and understand who you are and your purpose and try to make the world a better place. I think that it has to be a mix of the skills, memorizing the formulas, understanding the world around you, but then also what to do with it.
And just to go off that, the idea that education, you have to balance the importance of memorizing the quadratic formula while simultaneously addressing social and political issues, respectively.
No, you don't. Not in just normal education, like K through 12. You don't need the social and political shit. Why? Why? That's stupid. Like, I'm not just gonna say that's stupid. Why would you want your kids to be involved? Like, you have to, like, push them in a way that you feel fit politically. Like, it's just normal for people to do that. You're not going to teach your kids about the side that you don't agree with. You're just going to teach them about the side you agree with. Or you're going to teach them about the side you disagree with and tell them they're wrong. So it shouldn't be anything like political. It should just be all fucking education. That's it.
So children have both the know-how, general knowledge, and also kind of self-awareness and character, so they're able to develop their own opinions.
Yeah, I think that the purpose of education is to understand the world that you exist in and use that understanding as a means for creating change or even understanding yourself on a deeper level.
See, everybody say creating change. What type of change? Like, why do you need to create change? Why wouldn't it just be education? Why are you trying to push them to change something? Help society, sure, but and you don't even need to teach them how to help the society. You just teach them how to do simple shit like math, science, reading, learning, all that shit. You don't need to teach them all this fucking political bullshit that you want to like indoctrinate them with. That's what fucking they want to go to college and learn some more. They find themselves being more like interested in something else, and you push them towards that. When they get to college, they can figure that shit out themselves.
I believe the purpose is simply just to prepare the individual to be successful in the society that they exist in.
Critical thinking, learn how to live out your full potential so you can be independent, and everything else really flows from there.
The purpose of education is to prepare children for the real life and also make sure that they are literate.
So I think the purpose is to raise the next generation of leaders. And when you think about what you want your leaders to be like, you want them to be knowledgeable, and you want them to be compassionate, you want them to be self-aware, you want them to understand the best way to move forward, not just for themselves personally, but for their whole community.
When we talk
So big that can mean anything.
about who's doing the educating, who should decide what's being taught?
Parents. I think that parents should have a huge say in what's going on in the classroom because it's their kids, not ours. As a public school teacher 15 years, I was always aware that these are not my children. We have to make sure that we're respecting parents and their beliefs.
Bro, that's always weird to me. Like when people be like, "Oh yeah, my kids." I'm like, "Oh, you got kids?" I'm like, "No, my students." I'm like, "How the fuck you calling me your kids? They're not your kids. They're students. You're students, sure, not your fucking children."
And their values.
Sounds
I
weird,
think
bro.
the Constitution agrees with that.
Yes.
Here in America, ranging back to the early 1900s, plenty of Supreme Court cases have ruled in that favor that it is the parents' right ultimately to decide a child's education, medical needs, etc.
I would push back, though, and say that there does need to be collaboration, right? I completely respect your idea of it is not our job as educators to put forth a belief in front of children, right? That includes not perpetuating parents' beliefs in the classroom as well.
I'm gonna lie, I don't know if that's a dude or a chick. I'm leaning more towards trans. May not even be trans. It might just be a gay dude, actually.
In my opinion, that would be keeping a non-biased viewpoint, simply presenting issues, and then allowing kids to decide for themselves.
I would agree that I think it needs to be a collaborative effort. The way that we decide curriculum.
Side note, okay, it's so weird that people, like gay people and trans women, they always like change their voice because that's never their real voice. That's not how they speak. So I want and like it's so crazy that you go around like your world daily just hey how you doing? Like that's gotta be strenuous like all the time, bro. That's gotta be hard, bro. The vocals, bro. That's crazy. Unless they train them up and like they do it so much that their vocal cords just get used to it and then it just changes like that. That's crazy.
in Texas is that work groups comprised of community members, educators, parents, even in some cases students and public service officials come together to draft curriculum plans, and then it's ultimately decided on by our State Board of Education, which has a lot of
kind of assistance from parents as well. So I think that kind of format can be really effective because it also empowers students to become involved in the fate of their
education. As a student myself,
Okay, every time I click off of OBS, it's all fucking high pitched.
I think that that's incredibly important because our perspectives need to be heard as well.
The voices of parents need to be heard in that equation. But unfortunately, what we've seen recently is that parents' voices have been demonized in this process. You've seen.
Hold up, I want to make sure it's something because I don't want to be streaming this and there's no fucking audio coming through. Two seconds. It was still good. All right, my bad.
Parents who have criticized local school boards labeled terrorists simply for caring about the quality of their education that their child is receiving. These teachers are temporary caretakers. When they come back home, it's the parent who has to explain that this is this radical belief that was put in front of you. This was this idea that you've never been raised around that parent now has to explain. And at the end of the day, that isn't just confined to a classroom. Now it's bleeding into their upbringing. And there's only one person responsible for their upbringing, and it's the parents. It's not the educator, it's not the teacher, it's their parents.
I like the idea of the collaboration, and obviously parents' voices belong at that table. I also like the emphasis on students having a say in this, and also other people adults that aren't parents.
Wait, what do you mean? Like, I'm open to the parents having a seat at the bitch, that's not your fucking kids. What are you talking about? A seat at the table. You can have a seat at the table if the parents want you to. It's not you're just the parents can join the table if we deem them fit. No, fuck you, nigga. Like, what are you talking about? You can have a seat at the table if I allow you to. What are you talking about? That makes no sense. That's fucking ass backwards, bro. Bass backwards.
I'm invested in that too, even though I don't have children of my own. And I hear what you're saying about having to, like, parents needing to confront or address, I guess, like what kids are learning at school. But giving kids the exposure to other ideas or other things that they wouldn't be exposed to otherwise is, I think, part of what's going to help raise the next generation of people that are able to look outside their own lived experience.
But I think that oftentimes those different ideas are presented in the classroom as a student as the only idea. When you're being taught that, oh, there's this many genders or anything like this, where you haven't been exposed to that in your own household, it's being presented as like the end all be all when it actually isn't. It's about educating and not indoctrinating. As long as that is presented as a counterpoint to, well, there's people who believe this, but there's also people who believe this, that's okay. The reality of it is that in most classrooms across the country, that isn't what's happening.
And to piggyback off of that,
in most classrooms, they're telling them this is what you should think. They're telling them what to think, not how to think, and that's where it's fucking up.
one side is labeled as a bigot, white supremacist, homophobic. There's a lot of parents in America that are Christian or, they believe in two genders, gender binary. And if you...
Okay, conservatives need to stop saying this, right? Stop saying that we believe that there's two genders, okay? It means you're taking on, like, faith. That you believe something is one way. Say, we know there's two genders. Don't state it as like, hey, it might not be this way. Say, hey, factually, I know that there's only two genders. Okay? So I'm saying believe. I believe there's two genders. I believe there's two sexes. No, it's a fact. There's two genders. Gender is influenced by sex. That's all it is. There's two sexes, two genders. That's all it is.
say that as a teacher, especially, you could be labeled as homophobic. So there isn't this unbiased classroom because there's one side that can't really be, as loud as the other side without risk of, losing our jobs even.
But you two are kind of the ones that brought in the conflict of like, there is an indoctrination going on and only one side it has this opinion and this side is not allowed to talk and we have to be quiet. When really you guys are actually the loudest in regards to this issue thus far, right?
Right now, yes,
So,
in
yeah,
this room, yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say that that's the quiet. What I would say though is like, I do want to push away, if possible, and I'd love for you to hear this, right? Is that idea of someone sees me and they go, oh, you're one of those that teach that there's 72 different types of gender. Desmond Fambrini, he, him, gender fluid, bisexual. My students do not know this because it doesn't come up because I'm a learning specialist and it's my job to educate and teach a curriculum, right?
Okay, I met this man as my first name. That's it. But no, actually, I did like what you said. He, him. I don't like that. That's weird. If you tell his students that, hey, Desmond Fambrini, he, him, like, hey, I'm Mr. Fambrini. That's all you gotta say. Now, Mr. Fambrini. I don't even know if that's his name. I think that's what I heard.
Right? Now, if I'm asked directly by a parent or if there's confusion, oh, why do you wear makeup? Same reason why girls do, because it's fun for me. It doesn't need to be this very controversial, I'm gonna mess with this child's upbringing, they're gonna go home and they're gonna turn in.
I don't even think teachers should be wearing makeup in school. Why are you wearing makeup in school? You teach your kids. Go in there, teach your kids, get the fuck out. Why you wearing makeup? It's weird. I don't understand why women wear makeup anyway. I mean, I kind of understand it. It's like you want to beautify yourself, which I understand, but it's just like, yeah, men. Like if you want to change your hair and stuff like that, that's cool. But if you want to like put on a whole nother face, that's weird to me.
Into a gender fluid and they're gonna think there's 72 genders.
I think that's a question you say you should go ask your parents about how they feel about that.
Well, so,
And
okay.
teachers are supposed to teach reading, math, science, the things that are actually going to make them contributing members of society. Answering a child's questions about whether or not men or women should be wearing makeup or not is, I don't think, within that realm.
Okay, so you said science, right? So we're talking about a physical science, we're talking about human anatomy and biology here. So a child says, I thought boys could not wear makeup. I have an X and Y chromosome and I'm wearing makeup. I could factually answer that without indoctrinating with any opinion.
But it's in no way scientific, your answer to
Uh, what if I want you to tell my son that boys can wear makeup, and then my son goes home and said, "Hey, I want to wear makeup because my teacher said boys can wear makeup." I'm like, bro, the teacher's fucking wrong. Don't tell him. Don't listen to that. And then you put me in predicament where I'm just like, don't listen to your fucking teacher. So I'm just like, I want you to listen to your teacher because your teacher's supposed to be teaching you shit. But then I'm like, don't listen to your fucking teacher when you say some shit like that. So, like, you should just keep that out of it. Like, hey, I thought even girls can wear makeup. Ah, well, I'm different. If you want to know more, go ask your parents. And then the parent probably thank you for it. Be like, yeah, thanks for not trying to go to personal shit like that. And then the parents probably explain it in a good way to them. Like, some boys like wearing makeup. Not boys can wear makeup. There's the problem. I just thought about that. Not boys can wear makeup. There's some people like wearing makeup. No. Yeah, I'm stupid. Let's go.
that question.
How
whether
is
or
that not scientific?
I would say maybe cultural or it's a perception or an opinion, but it's in no
Yeah, fuck, I forgot the whole point. Yeah, that's not scientific at all.
way scientific.
Anyone else? I am a chatty person, so I'm going to take a pause and I'm going to let's see if anyone else has something to say.
So I just had one question.
You know what? I like him for that. He was like, I'm talking too much. Let me let somebody else get in. Sometimes it's just because they have nothing to say, and it could be that, but I don't know. I find that was genuine because I feel like he was about to say something else, and then he was like, "Oh, let me stop. Anybody else want to get in?"
Question for you, because not all homes are welcoming or open to conversation or safe. So how do we balance that?
I think that what we're saying is that there are certain conversations that are not to be had with a teacher. And I think that the
Dude, I think he was in the other freaking video I reacted to too.
argument that a lot of people on the right and conservatives are making is that we just don't feel as if actors of the state should be having conversations that are taxpayer funding conversations with children about conversations that have not come up in their own households. And to that point, if you can't talk about God in the classroom, why can we talk about every gender under the sun, right? I think that's the conundrum that we find ourselves in. If we are banning those conversations, we've banned those a long time ago, then how can we have these conversations just because they belong to a different side of the political aisle?
So I think we actually talk about God in the classroom all the time, right?
Yeah.
Who's taught religion? Who's taught world religions? Who's taught like history in the way that, Puritans, and that's okay.
Do you not see the difference? Who's taught about religions? Who's taught about gods? Not this God is the right God. But who's talking about gods? Like a bunch of different things about the world. Hey, these people believe this back in the day. These people believe this back in the day. It's not, hey, this is your God. The only God, the one true God.
Because God is part of the fabric of history and whatever else.
We talk about it from a development perspective. This is how Christianity originated. This is how Islam originated. We don't talk about this is what this gender is, and this is if you feel this way, then there's gender affirmation therapy, all those things.
I think you actually bring up a really good parallel of I feel comfortable and I feel like it is okay to talk about identity issues the same way we talk about God. Not indoctrinating anyone, not telling this is what you have to be or you have to believe, but saying this is something that some people believe.
But in the sense of gender identity, I don't see that parallel. How is that making someone more literate, more successful?
What I hear you saying is that learning about different gender identities does not make somebody a more considerate, well-rounded person, but learning about different religions does make you a more considerate, well-rounded person.
I'm saying that is a part of history. I don't understand where gender identity falls within what we should be teaching.
Religious history and God comes into play in terms of history, cool. But don't gay people and trans people too? It's not like I'm the first transgender person to ever walk this earth. There are trans people that were, and gay people who were part of major movements in this country, from the civil rights movement to the feminist movement to, obviously Stonewall. Isn't that part of history too?
Let's just take a step back. So just show of hands. Who here thinks public school is the best option for kids? Okay. And who thinks private school is the best option for kids? Who thinks homeschool is the best option for kids? And then some of you guys didn't raise your hands at all.
It's so challenging to pick one right answer for that, because essentially what you're asking is, who do you trust the most?
All right, hold up. I need a piece. Right. What's funny is that I just shared my stream right before I went to go to the bathroom. This is why people don't live stream their reaction, okay? Oh, no, they do, but I'm drinking beer and that shit runs right through you. But yeah. What I want to know what they're about to say about, because you say who's the best, and or what do you think is the best one, and they was like nobody.
With your children, who do you trust to give them the cultural values that I have, and then fill in the gaps where I don't necessarily know the answer, but I trust that they're experts and are going to give my children the attention that they need in order to develop so that they can be a better version of themselves?
If I had to choose one, it's public school. It is the best tool we have to give everybody a chance at a good education, no matter where you come from, how much money you have. Public schools, where not everybody thinks the same and people are coming from all walks of life, is a good microcosm of that global experience, where you can learn critical thinking skills and learn how to be a good community member, because not everybody looks like you or thinks like you.
Kali, you were shaking your head.
Oh, well, first of all, our schools are more segregated ever than our public schools, especially in blue states. New York and California have the most segregated schools. And on top of that, we are in a place where our public schools are not safe, especially the last 20 years. And I just don't see why sending our kids to these environments where it's unsafe. We also used to be, because I used to be on the left, we used to be against the institutionalization of our children. These kids are being institutionalized, having these places where there's 2,000, 3,000 kids. I'm okay with public school, but the problem with it is that it's become an environment where it's almost like the school to prison pipeline. We used to talk about that in the 90s. We're not talking about that anymore. And I think that's something that parents need to wake up about, and America needs to wake up about, the institutionalization of our children.
I talk about the school to prison pipeline all day.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the left used to be like all against like the government and shit. Now it just seems like they're all for it. Like they're all for government intervention in every aspect of your life, bro. Like that's crazy.
Every day. And I hear what you're saying, that it's terrible that there are parents who are sending their kids to schools that are not safe. However, what about the parents that don't have a choice? Like, I'm thinking about like the most marginalized community when I said public schools here, because I agree with you, the public schools have a lot of work to do to become the safe places where our kids are not in institutions where they're ignored or not giving the services they need. And also, for the people that don't have a choice and that is the only option their kids have, I just believe that's worth fighting for. That's why I said
Absolutely. I'm a big advocate for school choice.
Well, why don't we just show of hands? Who believes in school choice?
Can you just specify what do you mean by that?
So that's where parents can apply the money that they pay to taxes. They get vouchers, and they can put that into any school that they want. It's very popular in red states right now, and a lot of blue states are against it, especially teachers' unions are against it, because it's taking money away from the public schools and creating more of a competitive market.
Right. That's why I wouldn't raise my hand.
Sometimes with school choice, it gets a little bit tricky, right? My first class had, the first day, I had 25 students. By day 2, I had 19, because 6 parents switched out of the class because they saw me, and they were like, there's no freaking way, before I even got a word in.
As a parent, I would want to.
What's the problem with that? The parent doesn't want you to teach their kids. That's the parent's choice to not want you to teach their kid. I mean, you might not like it, but it's still their choice. They can do what the fuck they want with their kids. And if you have school choice, then hey, like if you go up in the school, it's a hyperbolic or like a extreme case, but if you go up in a school and see like a dude in there with a fucking Klan hood and you don't want the fucking Klan member to fucking teach your kids, you can take them out. You got the choice to take them out.
No, like, do you not think that that is okay or they're right to withdraw when they see you? Because
Boom, see?
ultimately, you're probably an excellent educator.
I appreciate that.
I have no doubt about that. But I think we get into muddy waters when we start trying to take that choice away from the parent.
Do I think that it is okay for a parent to see me and go, not around my kid? No, I don't think that's okay. I feel like that's really crossing the line, because
How is that crossing the line? You go against their beliefs. Or they don't want you to teach your kids. Like, wait, how's that crossing the line, dude? That makes no sense to me. Explain. Elaborate. Expand.
you are, for lack of better words, discriminating against me openly. That's like seeing a black teacher and being like, there's no way. It is the same. It is the same.
Can we all just admit that discrimination isn't always bad? People discriminate against other people all the time for different reasons. It's just when when something is when something goes against you is when you don't like it. People discriminate on like the type of friends they have, the type of like we discriminate on like type of jobs we want to go to. We say, hey, this job's fucked because search blah blah blah, or we say this person's fucked because blah blah blah. We discriminate all the time. We discriminate in relationships. I don't want to date a fat person. I don't want to date a skinny person. I don't want to date a black person. I don't want to date a white person. Whatever. Discrimination isn't always bad. It's just certain discrimination we hate. I don't care. Like if this motherfucker was teaching my daughter, I wouldn't give a shit. But it's the parent's choice.
It's
Not
still
quite.
the right of the parent to make that decision as to whether or not they want their child to learn from you.
Okay.
Like, it's still that parent's right. Like, you can disagree with their motivations, their motives, their ideas,
Would you
but
say
it is
that-
still their child.
This started around school choice. Even if you want to decide on a different learning environment for your kid, the people that do not have the option to send their child to a different place, the bar should not be so low. And that's my concern with school choice, is that sometimes people think that if everyone flees to the suburbs, who is teaching in these schools where everyone has decided they don't want their tax dollars going to? And that's one of the big concerns with funding.
And it still comes up with choice. That's their choice. That's the beautiful thing about it. Just like we have the choice to go to what restaurants we want to go to, what businesses we want to give our money to, that's the choice about it. If you got shitty schools, why would you want to keep on letting your kids go to shitty schools, bro? No one's teaching there. Fuck it. They shouldn't be. The school shouldn't be fucking. The schools shouldn't be funded if they're shitty schools. But saying that kids have to go there and the fucking schools will always be funded, that's a bad fucking thing. You want to fund shitty schools, bro? Like, that doesn't make any sense.
Funding of education being the way that it's set up, it essentially makes it so that the people that are stuck with these as their options don't end up with as good a school. And everyone deserves to have their kid go to a.
And that's what school vouchers come in too. So you can pay for your kids to go to a different school. We're like getting rid of like the school zoning shit. So you're in this zone, that means you have to go to this school. No, I want a voucher so I can go to another school, a better school. Like, that's all people are saying. I want my kid to go to a better fucking school. And these motherfuckers are saying, oh, what about the shitty schools? Fuck them. They shouldn't be there.
A good school.
Well, if there's school choice, they won't be stuck with those options. They can have other options. That's the whole point of that. Also, it is the school district's job to appropriately use those budgets. Most of the budget in the schools aren't going to the teachers. We got cafeteria workers, janitors, all of these people that are getting paid.
It used to be 9 out of 10 people that were employees of schools and districts were teachers. Now it's 50-50.
Yes.
So there is some mismanagement of funds in this country. We actually fund our kids really well. Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Too many administrators.
Just to go back a little bit to like
And people keep saying that, oh, schools aren't funded well. Schools are funded well, bro. Like in Baltimore, the schools are funded well when the kids are doing shitty. They're reading below their fucking grade level. The schools are funded. They're just not handling the funds properly. I don't know. Shit, like what was it in New York? That chick that I think it was like 3 million or 6 million, $6 million on chicken from the she was the person that was buying food for the kids, and she ordered like $3 million worth of chicken, bro. That's crazy.
when you guys are raising your hands about the different choices, you raise your hand for homeschooling. Can you talk us through like why do you think homeschooling is the best option?
Well, if we look at the history of this country, a lot of people were homeschooled. A lot of our founders were homeschooled. Like they only went to school till 3rd grade, a lot of them. And I think what has happened is parents have decided that the government is going to do a better job at raising their children than themselves. We have also come to a place where school is taking up the majority of our day. And we have this mistrust of parents that they can't educate their own children. And I think that that's wrong. I think that a lot of parents, and if you look at homeschool data, like my friend Phil right here, he's got 7 kids and he's homeschooling them all. And actually homeschool kids are turning out really well.
I think you bring up a lot of very valid points, but I have to say, and I just want your opinion on this, I would never homeschool my own kids. And I want my kids to be smarter than me, than I ever was. How am I going to have a child?
I don't know about homeschooling. I just don't personally know. I don't get it. Because I can think I'm the smartest man in the world, but there's always someone smarter. Like, Following the curriculum, giving them this or things. But I think it's more like a lawyer would never be his own lawyer. He would never represent himself. So that's how I say it. I don't know. Maybe I'm stupid. I am stupid. I don't know.
Child that is smarter and does better than I do if I'm their only teacher.
You grow alongside your child.
Okay.
I think as a teacher, I feel like I've learned the most in my life as a teacher, like more so than in college. And, so parents becoming teachers is actually good for them as well.
Okay.
And even in the public schools, a lot of teachers are relying on the lesson plans. But speaking from experience, I got to give the credit where it's due. My wife does the homeschooling, and I've watched that process of her learning alongside, to make sure when they ask these questions, I'm getting knowledge on the material as well so I can help you get through it. Nothing replaces that value, that bonding time that she gets to have with the kids.
I taught high school for 6 years and I quit. And I'm a stay-at-home mom with my own kids. So we're a one-income family. We're lucky enough to be able to live off of my husband's salary. Would you say that most homeschool families have one parent working?
I do think the statistics show that that is the case.
It's like the only way to do it well.
Pretty much. And, another misconception, though, is that they think it's a matter of income and homeschool families have to be rich and et cetera. And I think the average homeschool family makes like $65K. So the reality is they're scaling back and making sacrifices for this lifestyle because they
If that's true, that's crazy. Goddamn.
value what is coming out of it.
So let's just say that for the people that homeschool isn't an option, what is for so many people it's not, I do not think that school choice is the way to go about that, which I know is a lot of people's answer to that.
Can we just get Sean in here? What are your thoughts on this?
School choice gives people an exit ramp. You get to send your kid to a school that best fits what you think is best for their development. At the end of the day, it's kitchen table conversations about we've worked hard to raise a family. We want to spend our money in a way that best fits our child, best fits our family. And when you don't have school choice, you do make those trade-offs. There are real consequences there.
The school is considered one of those shared spaces, one of those last kind of shared spaces where you might bump into someone who maybe comes from a different background than you, has a different ideology than you. What do you lose if you homeschool and then you're not putting yourself in these kind of situations?
What you lose is negative influences. One of the biggest things I think when it comes to homeschool is keeping my kids away from your bad kids. We've went and taken our children to pride parades. And you know what I mean? We've been there, we've been loving, and we showed support to the people there. But at the same time, we explain.
I would never take my kid to a pride parade because it's not all just like them things get like raunchy, bro. They get explicit, and it's not like you can conceal that shit. Like I would never take my kid to a pride event, just like I wouldn't take my kid to like Mardi Gras.
Our views on the matter that we believe marriage is between a man and a woman. And from experience and talking to people, I understand that a lot of people who choose that lifestyle, it is based on trauma. A lot of were molested or sexually assaulted as children. So I don't think it's okay for me to teach to my children that this is something normal we ought to accept when it doesn't progress society. We would not be able to procreate if everybody were to choose that lifestyle. So I think it's okay for me as a parent to say, hey, this exists, that exists, but this is.
The motherfucker didn't like that. He ain't like that. He was like, oh, you can't procreate? You can't.
Our view.
Well, he can. He said he bi, so he can procreate.
And this is how we want to present it to them.
Do you think it's somewhat problematic that you're going like, well, this is our viewpoint, that marriage is between a man and a woman because we can't move society forward with gay couples? Like, we have factually proven that incorrect. I can actually tell you that gay parents on average make exceptional parents and do exceptional things with kids because they.
You know, he's going to say adopt, but you cannot adopt if there's no more heterosexual people. You just can't. Unless you think that all the gay men are just going to go to sperm banks and just fucking give their DNA to everyone. Like, that's the only way, but like you can't fill society with homosexuals. Like that's just not possible.
Adopt and they only.
I mean, it's possible, but it's like you got to have certain circumstances. You got to have people that are willing to like give up their sperm, and then women, lesbians who want to get impregnated. Like, which there are probably many, but like, been like just having a strict gay people, society will drop. Like the amount of people on this earth will drop. Like that's just a fact.
Adopt kids when they are financially capable, which actually makes kids of gay parents actually more successful and academically competent. So gay parents actually are very good at moving society forward, and we have the statistics to prove
Could
it.
that be a long-term solution, though, if a large population chose to choose that lifestyle? There would be no children
Okay,
to
so first of all,
adopt.
no one
Nobody's
is choosing
choosing.
this lifestyle.
That's an opinion.
Okay,
It's not an
we're-
opinion,
okay,
it's just-
though. Okay, sorry.
Did you
That is an opinion. No one chooses their lifestyle. That is an opinion because we don't know if I think we got like some studies that say certain things, but it's not a proven fact yet that you're born gay. Like we don't know if it's societal or biological. So
choose to be straight, sir?
I've been teaching for 15 years.
So
and
have I.
will say that there is some kids now that are going for that community that are doing it.
yes, I choose to be straight. Why is that a hard question? Do I choose to be straight? Yes. I choose it. Can I go be gay? I can. I'm not going to. That's my choice. I choose to be straight. What the fuck? That's just weird. I find women attractive. I find men less attractive. Doesn't mean anything. No. Yeah, I choose to be straight. It's a choice.
I got
Not out of a genuine, and there's pockets of them too. Like you'll notice like friend groups of girls that will all of a sudden decide that they're now trans.
the idea of LGBTQ being trending and the idea of teaching kids that being gay is a choice. Those are two very
So
different.
I'll answer that. Yes, I chose to be straight. Absolutely.
So
When?
you could,
Can you tell us about it? Like
so
Did
you
you consider
actually
the
you
alternative?
could
Like-
be attracted to me if you wanted to be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And let me explain. I have seen transgendered people who I thought were born female that were very attractive. I didn't know. Now, once I find out that that's not what you are, I am choosing not to pursue that. That's what I mean. So yes, you can be attracted to someone that is of another gender.
Let's talk about what do you think should be taught?
I think he misspoke right there. I don't know. I think you can choose to be attractive to someone. Oh, he's talking about if you're gay, you can choose to be attractive to someone of another gender. Yes, you can choose to be straight. Yeah. I don't know. I think they just need that argument, bro. I just think they need it to be that it's not a choice. Yeah.
About gender identity in school? What do you think is being taught?
I want to go back to something you were saying earlier that's related to this about like you're seeing trends. And I am too, right? Last semester, when I was teaching, I had a trans kid in every classroom. And I was like, whoa, when I started teaching,
It was one in school.
there was none,
Yeah,
right?
one
And
in
I'm like,
school,
this
yeah.
is wow.
And they
okay?
were really for it too.
And
they like went for it.
And I'm hearing you that is something I'm seeing too in the classrooms. Fair. Okay. Now, I'm not going to presume to be in the heads of those kids and to understand like what's real for them or whatever, but I will tell you this. Historically speaking, a disproportionate number of kids who are gay, who are trans, who are any of the LGBTQI, fill in the letters, right? Didn't live to see adulthood. Maybe that's why we don't have an older generation of trans adults because
I
a lot of
attended
them-
a funeral of a trans student last month.
a lot of them didn't make it. And so when I hear about kids like feeling comfortable enough to try expressing something where maybe it wouldn't be
No, this is so crazy. There's not like freaking. First of all, there's no fucking long-term studies on this, but like if it was because they weren't accepted in the past, they're accepted now, then you'll just see a outpour of a bunch of older people who are coming out as trans. Like a whole bunch of them. Not just a little bit, because there are like Caitlyn Jenner and then some dudes do this shit, some women. But I think that Caitlyn Jenner is older, so sure. But like there's not an outpour of fucking older people saying, "Hey, I'm trans." Because if it was just because they weren't accepted in the past, then they would just be like, "Oh yeah, it's acceptable now, so I can come out." It's not happening. It's social contagion. That's what it is.
They wouldn't be able to do in other spaces. And I understand that maybe that's not what you want for your kids, but I'm thinking about the most marginalized and vulnerable people. And unfortunately, statistically, for our queer youth, disproportionately, they fall in that category.
Mind you, with the whole concept of school choice, I'm all for parents who agree with what you're teaching, sending their children to you. I just think ultimately it should be within the parent to make that choice.
What do you think should be taught in sex ed?
I think it should be health education, yes. I taught middle school and high school, and they started giving it to my students in 7th grade. And now,
God damn. Beer. Oh, no. My headphones. I need new ones. I need new headphones. Oh, man. Hate these things. I don't hate them. I think, well, nah, kind of hate them. Shit's broken. It's broken. It's hanging. Let's try to fix this real quick. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Alright, I think we're good. Nope, no, we're not. Fuck. Here we go. No, we're good.
have students come back to me traumatized because I think sex ed has gone away from what it was. There are some lessons, like for example, they have a lesson where the kids in 3rd grade in the New Jersey curriculum, there's a picture of a woman's spread eagle, and they're learning all the different body parts of the clitoris. And
did she say 3rd grade? That's crazy. No, she couldn't. She said 3rd grade? That's insane.
the stuff, every child is different. Some are not developmentally ready for this or mature enough for it.
I grew up with abstinence education.
That's pretty rough.
Where we didn't talk about sex ed until middle school, but mostly 10th grade and high school. But I think that
No, that doesn't seem like a problem right there. It's in fucking normal. Teaching kids about sex ed in I was about to say military school, middle school with the parents' permission. That's normal. That sounds very normal. Elementary school, no. Middle school, parents' permission.
school is far too late to be talking about sex ed. And it's not because I think that 2nd graders are, wanting to be promiscuous, but like having sex ed scaffolded because it is a preventative measure against sexual assault, often being done in the home.
Just because that happens in the home doesn't mean that we need to label all parents as not capable of teaching sex to their children and giving.
Bro, that's so weird that they say that. Oh, it's to prevent kids from being sexually assaulted in the home. Bro, how many parents are sexually assaulting their kids? Like, it's not the majority of parents. Like, get the fuck out of here. That's so stupid. And it's disrespectful to hella parents. Hella good parents are just, like, fucking cool as shit. Just like, oh, yeah. We want to teach your kids because we're saying you'll get assaulted. 2-year-olds, bro. Who are you going to teach them? That, your parents not supposed to touch you down there. I'm giving my child a bath. What the fuck you talking about?
Of course not, but teachers for a lot of children are the only trusted adults, and it is incredibly dangerous to remove teachers who are trained professionals to deal with these crises in the home from the situation. And that's just like a
You're going in saying the parents are fucking criminals from the jump, bro. Like, what? You're assuming that parents are criminals.
For child abuse.
I think a huge thing that's missing in education in the schools when it comes to sex ed is consent.
Yes.
You know, that's not being taught at all, to my understanding. I never learned it in schools. And that creates consequences when you look at the situations that are going on here.
I think that we have such a hypersexualized society. Obviously, kids are having sex younger. They're hooking up younger. It's just reality. I would rather those individuals, and also from a pro-life perspective, know how to have safe sex and preventative sex that prevents pregnancies than them to just go around willy-nilly just doing whatever.
The topic, off topic. I don't like this setup. I don't like having a row front and a row back. Because then the people in front got to keep turning around. Or they sit here just like this. Like, do a semicircle, bro. Have everybody can face each other and just have the moderator or whoever in the middle. Like, what the fuck is this? It's a triangle. Moderator at the tip. Everybody else right there. Sorry.
They want.
So there's a lot of middle schoolers in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that are getting pregnant at earlier ages. And we're starting to rank like the highest nationally in terms of middle school pregnancies. And that's because a lot of middle schoolers are, again, like you said, like getting sexually involved earlier. Whatever
it's the Cardi B music.
Whatever it is, it's happening. And we need to be able to.
It's the fact that parents don't think their children are sexually active. That's all it is. If you don't think your children are sexually active, you're not going to teach them anything about sex. You're not going to teach them about condoms and shit. Like me, I might have a middle schooler. I'm not thinking she's having sex. I'll fucking lose my fucking mind. Okay? And it's just because when I was a kid, I wasn't doing that bullshit. See, my kid, not even. I wasn't even thinking about that shit. That's crazy. And like, it's like the dude said. When he was talking about homeschooling, he was like, I want my kids to be away from your badass kids, and that's one of the reasons. Your kids are bad influences on my kids. I don't want my kid around your kids.
To address it, and students need to be able to be equipped with the skills to understand how to have safe sex. If parents aren't having those conversations at home and middle schoolers are getting pregnant anyways, like why can we not?
Bro, it sounds so weird about saying like we gotta teach these kids about having sex. Like that sounds weird as fuck, bro.
Include that in the school so they have some form of information.
Again, it just goes back to the fact that so many of this issue is just not black and white. It really is 50 Shades of Gray because like there is just no one-size-fits-all approach to the way we educate our children.
What age do you think sex ed should be taught in schools? Like starting at what age?
Probably at some point during secondary school, because if we're talking about it scientifically, kids need to understand that science is a body of knowledge that we're building together. This is what we currently understand about human anatomy.
See, and that's what I was talking about. Not what this guy's talking about. Talking about with that guy. He was just like listening. Like, why would you make them do that?
As far as like actually getting into intercourse and the details of all of that, in my experience, I usually at least start giving that understanding around 7, 8 years old.
I think that sex ed is a lifelong discussion, and it starts, as soon as you can communicate. Now, that doesn't mean that you are giving a high schooler's curriculum to a 3-year-old.
But I think I know what she means. Hey, babe, that's your no-no area. No one touches down there. You know, except for me, I'm gonna give you a bath. But if anyone touches it down there, let me know. And I'll kill them.
But I'm
hypothetically
already talking about consent and using proper anatomical language with my children. And that's where it begins and it ends in adulthood.
I think as long as it happens in a way such that, to the point you were making, that like kids are.
Hold up. Even consent is weird, bro. Because if you say, hey, no one's supposed to touch you down there unless you say it's okay. And then the kid goes into another kid or an adult says, hey, is this okay? Or a kid says, hey, can I touch it? And they say, yeah, that's consent. It's nothing bad happened. I'm like, no, fuck that. No one touches you down there. No one. Unless I'm giving you a bath, no one touches you, okay? That's it. Or changes your diaper. Because they said 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds don't wear diapers sometimes. No one.
They're being protected. That's what I would say we prioritize.
I would say go back to the way it was when I was in elementary school. They separated the boys and the girls, and the girls watched a video about their period and all these things. The guys
That's health.
watched another video. Yeah, it was health class. And then we didn't talk about sex education, the actual contraception.
Bro, I do not think I was taught that until middle school. These motherfuckers are saying elementary school. Elementary, my dear Watson. I don't know. I wasn't in middle school yet. I mean, I was in middle school when I first started hearing about it. Like, are these motherfuckers just all young? I don't know. I'm 31. Maybe it's just the age gap thing. I don't fucking know. This seems weird to me.
And all of those things until high school.
I think we need to separate health education from sex education. Health education should be lifelong. No sex ed for now, the way it's being taught in a lot of these states.
Let's talk a little bit about other things that fall under the responsibility of what teachers do in the classrooms. What is CRT?
Critical race theory in reality is this complex legal institution that relates race to all of the institutions of America since its founding and since its birth. And it's something that I've never learned about in my classroom. I don't have any friends that have learned about it in their classrooms. It's something that's often taught on the graduate level or the undergraduate level. So I think that it's kind of not a.
Won't let them say this bullshit because they always say it's CRT. It's just a graduate level fucking curriculum and blah blah blah. It's not. It is in that sense, but it's not CRT. It's a way they implement CRT. Okay, CRT is how race affects like law and shit like that. I mean, yeah. CRT is how like race affects laws and policies and blah 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 blah. Right, but then they take that and they put it into how race affects you as an individual, how it affects society, how it affects how you're treated and blah blah blah, like all this other shit. So it's not CRT at the graduate level, it's the praxis, right? It's how they implement the shit in the levels. It's like how black people, like in that one shit, they was like how black people are not good at math, or they need a different way of teaching black people math because their race affects them in a certain way and shit like that. Or how like how whiteness affects like your whole individual way of like going through life and shit like that. That's CRT. But it's not the college level CRT. So don't let them go on with this bullshit because it's just bullshit. It's stupid. I mean, it's not stupid, but it's just fucking. It's their way of saying CRT isn't taught in schools. They say because it's a graduate level curriculum, and it's bullshit.
Great term to use in reference to conversations surrounding K-12 education, because it's not actually something that's even on like the docket for consideration.
That was a perfect description. I could not have done a better description if I tried.
It is in our schools. I saw the lessons that contain critical race theory in California.
It said the words critical race.
It said the words critical race theory.
And
yes.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong because some states have implemented CRT into their curriculum. It means different things for different districts. So this is about to be a very complicated conversation.
So in my district, and this is in California, they're requiring a class called ethnic studies in order to graduate. And in the class, they were taught about critical race theory. They were taught the definition. They were taught to analyze school policy through critical race theory, and they were taught how critical race theory is beneficial to analyze the US. It's basically like this idea that every institution in America, every institution, that interaction that you have has some sort of element of race, and usually there's a hierarchy of oppressed versus oppressor. And there are kids in America in K.
And just remember, critical race theory came from Marxist theory, right? It's like Marxists, the haves and have not, the rich are like oppressing the poor. So there was like, hey, it's not just the rich oppressing the poor, it's the rich whites oppressing the poor blacks. That's where it came from. what is it? What, I forgot what it was. It's critical theory, but they just added a race, and it's Marxist. It's just Marx. That's all it is. It's Marx with race added to it. That's it.
Through 12 that are being taught that, and I'm so tired of people saying that's not happening when it is. And then when I expose it, I'm being called racial slurs and names for exposing it. And I'm like, come on, guys. Like, so I think we need to stop saying it's not being taught in America and change it to should it be taught in America, because it is. It is. There are teachers that are teaching this.
So there's a recent bill that was passed in Texas called Senate Bill 3, and it completely revamped Texas's curriculum standards and basically eliminated all requirements for teaching of history education in Texas that relate to diverse perspectives. So teachers can go through the entirety of K through 12 education without ever talking about slavery as an institution, even though it's thoroughly.
That's not true. That is not true. They say every. Oh, I've gone through like all these bills that these motherfuckers say, oh, it says you can't teach about slavery. You can't teach about like black people being oppressed in the United States. That's not true. None of it is true.
Ingrained into just the history, just the basic facts of America's history.
What they say is that you can't teach that one race is superior than another one, or one race is inferior to another one. That's all it says.
Understanding, I don't see the banning of slavery being taught in
It's
Texas.
not the banning.
Yeah.
The issue is that it's no longer.
I know that bill.
It's no longer required.
I know
and
that bill, and I know it also states that you're not supposed to teach it in a way that causes mental anguish.
So it does not ban it. It doesn't ban the talking of the institution of slavery, but it does create a loophole for teachers to never touch on the topic at any point in a child's education. And that.
No, it doesn't. It just says you cannot make one child feel as though that they are being like ostracized, right? You can't teach that, oh, white people are bad because of slavery. Black people are and you can't even teach that. You can't teach that black people are bad because of like crime or violent crime. You can't teach none of that shit. That's all it is.
That is something that is happening, and it's something that is happening to peers of mine. It is something that is happening predominantly in communities outside of, I guess, my home city of Dallas, but having traveled and having talked to students across the state of Texas, I can confidently say that there are teachers who are not teaching
What's the doubt?
very key facts of American history because critical race theory conversations have so clouded the teaching of history as an entire, like, whole.
And it's not often called
I put that lies. Lies. I'm saying she's lying.
CRT anymore. It's called diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's called all of these different names and labels because of how divisive of a thing that it is. And I think at the end of the day, the big thing here is that let's teach black history. No one on the right is saying, do not teach black history, do not teach slavery. If we forget those lessons of the past, we're bound to repeat them. But what we're also saying is that stop being vindictive towards white people for being white. No one alive today was a slave, and no one alive today owned slaves. And so for white children to sit in a classroom and be blamed for sins that they themselves did not commit is wrong. For black people, for black children to sit in a classroom and be told that because of the color of your skin, well, it doesn't matter how hard you try, you're really not going to go that far because the society hates you, and then you have all of these structural barriers preventing your success. That is also
true, bro. Like, you're giving them an out. You're saying that, I mean, you're giving them an excuse. You're saying that, oh, you can't do this because of this. But you teach them you can do this. Like, stop teaching them. I say, hey, black people have gone through so much trouble, but we got some black inventors, and black people are doing fairly well, and we got the right to vote. We persevered through all that bullshit, and you can too. And it's way easier now. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's way easier now.
wrong. That is not lessons of hope. That is not lessons of opportunity. And I think that is what schools should be about. You can't create the next generation of leaders if they are never capable of seeing themselves as leaders, right? And I think like that is what CRT, unfortunately, in some ways, it does to young children of color.
What CRT means to me is obviously really different from what it means to you. And when you were saying before, like kids are being anguished, I am not for kids feeling guilty about being born in the body they were born in. That's not what I taught.
What did you teach?
I mean, what did I teach? Well, for one thing, I taught about slavery. For another thing, I taught about like the ripple effects of slavery that we're still feeling today. In no way saying that people.
What the fuck does that mean? The ripple effects of slavery, bro. I hate when people say that because it's like, all right, slavery, segregation. I think during segregation, no, I'm not even going to say I think. I know during segregation, black people were doing fairly well. In regards to social status, no, but like income was higher. They had, I think black people had more businesses owned like per capita or whatever. And then I think like the family structure was way better. So don't say, oh yeah, the ripples of slavery. No, it was that fucking democratic policies that was like, oh, the crime bill that fucked black people up, and then the welfare state fucked black people up. So it was like we were doing bad, slavery, segregation. Was I welfare state bad again? And then just kept being bad. That's where that came from. We were free, we were good. Then fucking Democrats had to fuck it up because I don't like black people.
Of color are less than or can't be, or no, not the opposite, saying like people have persevered through things that I myself as a white person will never understand.
To really make this micro, the way I see it is there is no reason that kids of a certain age, right, because it's different teaching to a 6-year-old and teaching to a 17-year-old or in college, shouldn't learn about the history of slavery, the history of redlining, the history of Italians being lynched in this country, et cetera, looking at the facts and looking at some of the horrible things that have happened so we can learn from it. That is a totally different conversation than when you've got instances like in Cupertino, California, where you have 7- and 8-year-olds who are being sat down and said, okay, time to do a privilege exercise.
That's what happened in
Let's
my...
write out, where you are on the power prism. Because that can create situations where students have warped views of themselves, especially if they're young. And I don't think it's appropriate because of the emotional impact it can have on folks.
If people are actually being sat down being like, if you're white, you're an oppressor and you're bad, that is not okay. That is not CRT. That is not critical race theory, and that is not culturally responsive teaching.
So it's not necessarily being blatantly said, but it's being implied over and over again.
Okay, there is definitely a way to teach CRT without it putting any...
Hold up. I'll be right back. Because he just said something stupid. All right. Think I ain't got no clear Peter Killer. You know what I'm saying? You ever want to clear out your, let's say bowels, your bladder, man? Just drink a hella beer, bro. Drink hella beer. You'll be pissing all day.
Anybody down. But it's like, hey, just so y'all know, if you're interested...
Wait, that's what I was saying. Because like, I think this was the guy that was like, TRT isn't being taught and shouldn't be taught in like K through 12. It's like a graduate school of a grad, whatever. What is it? University level education. Now he's saying, there's a way to teach it though. Like, bro, if you don't think kids can understand it, then why are you saying they should be able to teach it? Something like that. I don't know.
Interested. There's different types of racism. There's the idea of racism as you treat someone differently because they're a certain color, and
there's no different types. There's only one type of racism. It's when you treat someone differently because their skin color. You think one race is superior than the other one.
Yeah, you could be racist to a white person if you don't like them for being white. Now, there's also systemic racism because we took a whole bunch of slaves from another country and brought them over here. But
systemic racism doesn't exist.
That's
at all.
Said, right? There's different types of racism here, and you can expose yourself to different ones at different times, but you don't have to make anyone feel bad. You just say the statistics the way they are. You're not saying one person's good, one person's bad. You just go over the definitions.
How should we be teaching race?
Well, I don't think we should be teaching white privilege in the classroom.
But teaching about race, like if you're, designing your ideal, setting.
Yeah, I think.
How do you think race should be
Is
taught?
that because
You shouldn't teach about race. Boom. How about that? You can teach about the history of America and not even include race. You could be like, hey, slaves were taken here from Africa, and then they were whipped and beaten. It's horrible, and then we fought a war to free the slaves. Wasn't really about freeing the slaves, but then those slaves had children, and then we were wrong for making them be segregated. We made a bunch of fucked up laws against the children of those slaves, and now they're here. I didn't mention race once. I just said slave from Africa. Boom, that's it. People were sold. African tribes sold their slaves to settlers of America, and that's how they got here.
because you think it doesn't exist, or because they can't handle it, or like
I think
what?
again, when it comes to the privilege discussion, like that's a great conversation for you to have with your child. But I don't think that taxpayer-funded hatred should be something that we allow in our schools.
Okay, bro, real talk though, like
My man said that to the camera. He was like, taxpayer-funded hatred shouldn't be taught in our schools. Your turn.
brother to brother. Teaching white privilege does not inherently mean black people are less. Factually incorrect.
Okay. That's stupid. Okay, so think about it like this. All right, white privilege. Hey, as a white person, you get all the benefits in the world. You get people treating you so good, so well. And, people will look at you in a positive light. Black people, you'll be treated like shit. Do you not see that? Like, what are you talking about?
Right? So
What is white privilege?
privilege is the idea of white people may have benefits that fall in a societal structure. Because they are white, they have advantages. Not such as, for example, if you send out a resume and you make one name a white name and the other name the class.
Yo, I am so sick of this fucking dumb-ass study that these niggas always fucking cite. Bro, it's like, oh, you get a white name, you get a black name. The white name will get more callbacks because it's a blah blah blah. Bro, what the fuck is a white name? Jonathan? Is that a white name? I know a bunch of black Jonathans. Thomas? Black name? White name? Who knows? They're talking about stereotypical black names like Shaniqua or fucking Nicaragua or some shit like that. I guarantee you, and the study doesn't even tell you what fucking names they use, because I guarantee you they use the fucking ghetto ass black names against some proper sounding names that anybody fucking use. Like black people use them, white people use them. I guarantee you they did that. They ain't use Billy Bob or Cletus. They ain't use them motherfucking names. They probably use some typical names against fucking ghetto ass sounding names. And it's not even a race thing. It's a character thing. Because if you name your daughter Shaniqua, that's on fucking you. Everybody hears Shaniqua and they think a ghetto ass motherfucker. You hear Billy Bob, you're thinking of a fucking country ass bumpkin. You don't want him in your fucking business either. But I guarantee you they didn't do that. And they don't even show that in the study. They don't even show what names they actually fucking use. It's irritating that they keep on doing this stupid thing where the fucking names are not shown.
What's a white name?
White name would John, for example, right?
That's what I'm talking about. Lil John. John. That's a white name. Right? Isn't there a fucking John in the Bible? Don't people usually name their kids off of like Bible people, Bible characters? And the black people are what? Majority Christian, right? So why the fuck wouldn't they name their kids John?
No black Johns.
Okay, no, hear me out. Let me finish,
Okay.
okay? We did a study. I didn't do this study, but we did a study where basically it was sent out 2 different resumes. They were the exact same.
Okay.
Right? One was given a classic white name. The other was given the name Jamal.
Okay.
The white name got
It wasn't Jamal. It wasn't just Jamal. That wasn't the only name they used. They used a couple of names. So he's fucking lying right there.
2 times more callbacks.
And
right?
I disagree with what you're saying.
But the
in that
idea
sense.
of white privilege, right? The idea that somebody that is white may have an advantage does not inherently mean you are teaching a black individual they cannot accomplish great things. That is completely separate. So we're talking about fake biological science and social science. We're not even in the same building at school right now.
Well, again,
In regards to these like audit studies about like what is a white name, it's not necessarily that the name itself is white. It's that the perceiver, the person that is reading the resumes, for some strange reason, feels like when they see a white name that they are on their team, or that there are positive stereotypes associated with people being white. That's what we're talking about when we talk about white privilege. Is that okay? If Oprah goes into a store, people might not assume that she can afford the things in that store because she's a black woman, even though she is Oprah. But if someone was white and goes into the same store,
What year are these niggas living in, bro? That is crazy, bro. Even back when Cedric the Entertainer, segregation was there, they were still trying to advertise stuff. All right, what's that famous fucking advertisement? Like, I don't even know. It was like selling to the American Negro. They were saying, oh yeah, the Negro has a lot of disposable income, so this is how you sell. They like flashy stuff and blah, blah, blah. Bro, even back then, they were still trying to sell to your motherfucking ass, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Nobody in a fucking, in a, in today's society will see a black person walk in their store and just be like, oh, she can't afford that shit. Unless you're a black person. And no, fuck that. It's with any person. Any person walk in and you look raggedy, they're going to assume that you can't afford shit. Okay, I had that shit happen in my store. Like, when I was in sales, motherfucker came in, he looked homeless as fuck. Everybody, all the other sales team didn't want to fucking deal with him. But you know what I did? I was like, fuck that. This nigga probably got money. And I went up to him, sold him a bunch of shit, paid that shit off in cash, bro. I got that sale. But it's all about different mentalities. And like, if you walk in the store looking crappy, people gonna perceive you as a fucking broke ass nigga. Like, what are you talking about, bro? Get out of here.
some people, because of their
You living in a fucking 1800s or something, bud. You're living in the 1800s, bud. Get out of here.
own racial stereotypes, might believe that they can afford it. And so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about white privilege. It's the sort of systemic benefits that you get from society.
No, I want to add though, what you're describing though is discrimination.
Bro, if a nigga, if a white dude walks into a store with a fucking overalls on, like he walks in a I was about to say Boston Market, the fuck, a Louis Vuitton store, Louis Vuitton, and with overalls on, you think they ain't gonna think that white dude is just bumming around like holy overalls with dirt on? They ain't gonna think that dude is just bumming around. Get the fuck out of here. What are you talking about? What are you talking about, bro? Yeah.
Discrimination. But to call it privilege when the reality is, let's say you take the white person who would be considered white trash, you would get the same result from them. So I don't think you can necessarily assume that that's because of
Exactly what I just said. And this is a blind reaction. I've never seen this, but I was trying to avoid this video this whole time, so I haven't seen it.
race, and definitely can't call it systemic because a personal decision to be discriminatory.
Should it be taught to our children?
Right. And
should it be, and should we be telling Black kids that you're going to get discriminated against because of the color of your skin, with loans, with redlining, blah, blah, blah?
there is a way to teach culturally responsive teaching without being narrow-minded, but it's hard. But just because it's hard doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Even if you talk about the systems in place that privilege different groups at different times in different spaces, I'm not saying that when you teach CRT, when you teach about the history of this country that has privileged certain groups and not privileged black people, I think it's important to acknowledge that black people have persevered throughout that. There's so much excellence. And I think that you do all kids a disservice when you say, okay, the history of black people in this country or the history of women in this country is that they were oppressed the whole time and they weren't resisting. And then the Civil War happens and, the slaves are freed and the black people just stopped resisting, economic injustice until the Civil Rights Movement. That is not the case of history in this country. And so I feel like it's very important if you're teaching about, race in this country, it's about resistance. It's about resistance to the power structure that suggests that some people...
Stop it. These motherfuckers got some weird cuts. Like, they cut out a hell of a lot of shit in these videos. I don't know if y'all noticed it, but it's fucking 10 million cuts during this whole thing. Like, I'm sorry. It's just weird.
Deserve to get more if they work hard than another group of people if they work the same level.
And not just resistance, but resilience.
You mentioned history, and a lot of you are educators. I'm just curious.
You bigot is her story.
What do you think should or shouldn't be taught, when it comes to U.S. history in the K through 12 environment?
So I think it's just this really unbalanced way that they're teaching it right now, especially the ones that are proponents of CRT. That's creating this narrative that it's all white people to blame when there was so many people involved in the transatlantic slave trade. The British were actually the ones that stopped it and used their own resources to stop the slave trading ships from continuing.
And don't forget that it was the fucking Africans that sold them. So stupid. I hate that people be like, oh yeah, well they were stolen. Most of them was fucking sold. And then they made a movie about it, making the fucking top G's of the fucking slave trade looking so heroic. What's it called? The Woman King? The Woman King, they left out the old slave. They made them seem like them motherfuckers was trying to stop the white man from stealing all the Africans. No, they were selling them motherfuckers. And they sucked at war. I think they got beaten against the French in like 1 hour or some shit like that. Fucking, I hate it. Sorry.
Went to Africa to stop them. Hey, stop bringing them to the coast because we're not buying them anymore. And so this idea that I just feel bad for our children because they're not being taught it in a perspective that is holistic, basically.
They're not taught the real history. That's what it is.
And even to this day, there are slaves in Libya held captive by black people. So this is not a white and black issue. But even with that said, I think leaving the public school system, even my peers, when we talk about this, we left with the idea that black history is slavery and Jim Crow. And we're rarely talking about the Reconstruction era, the amount of senators and politicians we had post-slavery. It was just so many things that we did after slavery that we're being told we can't do today somehow. That is just asinine.
There's no conservative in America who's saying don't teach slavery in the classrooms, but if you're going to talk about slavery, to his point, let's talk about Madam C.J. Walker. Let's talk about George Washington Carver. Let's talk about all these black people who have done some really incredible things that, in spite of quote-unquote systemic racism and all of these things, have achieved. Let's talk about Barack Obama. Let's talk about Kamala Harris. Why is every conversation that we have to have about black people in the classroom about us being in chains, downtrodden, and having no hope? That's a problem. And Black History Month, it's American history. Let's talk about that too. Those are important inspirational stories that are not taught in the classroom.
Do you think that the fight against CRT is hurting the efforts for more diversity and inclusion?
I don't want diversity and inclusion. We already
more,
have that.
What I mean by that is you said you want more black stories of hope and success and all of that. That's what I mean.
But that's unfortunately not what CRT is.
Yeah. I know.
That's actually exactly what CRT is.
I think
that's exactly what CRT is. No, it's fucking not. CRT is saying that black people are disenfranchised against the system. That's what CRT is. They're saying everything in this system, everything in America is going against the black man, woman, whatever. That's what CRT is.
what's really clear is there's a lot of big opinions on education, across the spectrum, and really thankful to all of you for sharing, your perspectives, where you're coming from. Some of you said it wasn't like this when you were kids. 20 years ago, school was really different, and maybe you couldn't even imagine having some of these conversations. So just want to pose the question to you, and where do we go from here?
I believe that we have to recontextualize the way that we approach education as a society, and specifically how we've kind of started to use education as a political tool. At its core, education serves society. It needs to be a collaborative effort, because if education serves society, society should be investing in education.
We as adults have a lot of work to do, and it's both at kitchen tables and school boards and forums like this. Obviously, literacy is a part of that, and I think there are other parts of that too. But the only way that we can move forward is if, instead of just talking about what do we talk to kids about, I think we have to first get better about how do we talk to each other about this.
I think we have to recenter education about actually preparing young people for the real world and acknowledging the fact that we're not going to have a one-size-fits-all approach that works for every student across America. We have no room and no time, frankly, to teach all these divisive things because we have urban literacy rates that are down in the dumps. When those kids learn how to read, then we can talk about gender theory, CRT. But until we have children who are...
No, exactly, bro. Like, everybody, like, they're doing poorly in public schools, and you want to say, hey, let's teach them about this. No, fuck that. Get the main education right before you start trying to teach them about other shit.
And above a third grade reading level, and majority of those kids in cities like Chicago and Detroit, we don't need to be even having a conversation about whether or not students should be learning about privilege in schools.
The number one policy thing that I come back to that we must do to improve K through 12 education is to put in school choice at a universal level. It's far too overdue. It will incentivize the public schools to fix a lot of the problems that they have. It'll put the power back into the parent to get their child an education that best meets their needs. And I do think that if we're going to build the best generation of young people, then we should start with teaching them tolerance, kindness, and active listening before we get into racial privilege theory, gender privilege theory, etc.
I think that it's so important to get back to critical thinking and understanding that the way that we raise the next generation is also, not necessarily staying fixed ourselves. I think you were saying that, your wife is learning with the kids. And if we continue to learn about, hey, how do we do this better for ourselves? How do we treat each other better? The more that we do that, the better that we will be able to collaborate with people we disagree with. The better that we'll be able to make a curriculum that actually does, speak about the excellence that you're able to do if you, continue to challenge yourself and strive and push forward.
On this panel, a really huge set of diverse opinions. There wasn't really a bad guy. It was, we all wanted the same thing at the end. We just had different ways to get there. So I just think the collaboration is really what I'm taking away, because you can collaborate with anyone.
I think we need to make sacrifices for our children's future and prioritize them a bit more today. Aside from that, if you choose the public school route, I'm all for the...
Oh, right. That's all that. I think it was okay conversation. Man. I am a biased motherfucker, so I'm agreeing with the right side. I'm agreeing with the conservatives, because that's who I am. Because education should be on the parents. The main thing I got from this is that the liberals want to control your kids. The conservatives want to control their own kids. Like, they want to have the choice to get them in whatever education they feel fit, which I agree with. I agree that the parents have the final say on their own children. And the liberals just want the government to take over everything. They want to control your kids, they want to control you, they want to control your lives. It just seems so authoritarian to me. Like, they just want the final say. Just doesn't make sense. But those are my thoughts. And just let me know what y'all think. Conservatives? You more for the conservatives? You more for the liberals? Let me know. See you guys on the next video that I post in 20 years.